The last take of this video would have been a lot better because it was funnier than this one's gonna be. But now I'm pissed off because my bitch wife is calling me fucking bitching me out for bullshit that I have no control over. And so now I'm gonna be in a bad mood while I'm making this video. So anyway, let's begin the production. So this is Exosia coming at you live from my bitch wife's house. And this video, I can tell, this fucking better not skip, because I'm getting really angry. I can see the lag in my performance. I'm starting to really get pissed off here. Technology is way beyond this. Now we shouldn't, why am I talking down here? The camera's right there. We should be way beyond this. Now every computer should have a camera that's perfect. Phone cameras are better than this. Why does my camera have to be like this? I don't want to skip. If I wanted to make videos that skipped, I would put jump cuts every 2 milliseconds in my fucking videos. So now we're going to talk about what I deem to be the top 6 most perfect movies ever made. Some of you might agree with me, some of you might not. That doesn't concern me. This is my opinion of what I think are the top 6, yes, top 6, not 5, but 6 movies ever made. And if you don't like it, you can fuck a dinosaur. That's all there is to it. Now, I chose 6 because there are 6 movies I want to talk about. I don't want to have any honorable mentions, so we're going to have top 6. Because why not? So at number 6, and I'm by no means a movie reviewer. I'm not like, gonna sit here and get into the intricate details of movie making. I'm just gonna tell you why I think the fucking movies are perfect, and that's how it's gonna be. So now at number 6 we have Brigsby Bear. If you haven't seen Brigsby Bear, or if you don't know anything about it, then you need to watch the movie not knowing anything about it. You can watch the trailer because the trailer doesn't give anything away. I don't think any of the trailers do. If there's more than one, I don't think any of them give anything away. But I swear, if my phone rings, I'm just waiting for it to ring, because that's what happened in the last fucking take. I got halfway through the video and the phone rang, and she fucking just want to break my phone. Brigsby Bear, right? So it's best to watch this not knowing anything about it. So I'm not going to tell you what it's about, but I will say it was written by and stars Kyle Mooney of Saturday Night Live. I don't know if he's still on Saturday Night Live, but it's like one of the recent cast members. He wasn't on it that long ago if he's not still on it. It was written by him and his, I don't know if his middle school buddies had something to do with it. I don't know if they just came up with the story, or if they were actually a part of the script writing process, but, a lot of people have middle school buddies. In middle school I made a movie with my friends called Bloodhouse. It was a Friday the 13th ripoff. We never finished it. We only got about 20 minutes in, because every time we'd get together to work on it, we'd start over. But I wish I had a copy. I wish I could put it on YouTube, but I don't think anybody still has a copy of that. There might be a copy of the last version in the video camera if my friend still has the video camera. I think his dad still has it. And if I could ever get a copy of that, it'd be hilarious, because it sucks so bad. But a lot of people who, especially people who want to be actors or want to work in film, they make movies when they're kids, and that was the movie I made, Bloodhouse. Anyway, so Brigsby Bear, I can't really say anything about the plot, but what the trailers make it look like, they make it look like a sci-fi post-Armageddon kind of, end of the world kind of movie. You make it look like a family living at, post-apocalyptic world, and that's kind of how the movie starts. That's kind of what it makes you believe when it starts. But the movie ends up being something else. So if you're not into those kind of movies and you see the trailer and you happen to think, oh, it's one of those kind, it's not. It's not that kind of movie. But it doesn't really give anything away for me to say that it's not that kind of it's an incredible movie, and it makes you feel every emotion possible throughout the runtime, not to mention all at the same time. It's fucking hilarious and completely sad all at the same time, because the subject matter is really sad, but the main character is fucking hilarious because of his upbringing and because of what happens to him in the rest of the movie after the first 10 minutes. What happens to him, it makes him funny, and it's not like he's trying to be a funny guy. It just happens to be that the circumstances that the guy has to go through for the rest of the runtime, but it's hilarious and sad all at the same time. So you'll end up crying, and you will cry. You will cry at this movie, unless you're like stone cold. You'll fucking cry, and you'll laugh all at the same time, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful movie. Brigsby Bear. So, I wish I could talk about it. I really do. Just watch the fucking movie. Just watch it. It's so fucking good. It's so good. Coming in at number 5, we have Pump Up the Volume, and I'm kind of thinking I might switch this with one of the other ones. I don't know though. I will leave it at number 5 for right now, because that's where it is on the list. We gotta stay true to the list. We don't want to have tangents and try to be against the grain, even though that's what this movie's about. This movie is about kids going against the system. Pump Up the Volume is a 1990 movie, and it's very much a product of its time. It is a 1990 movie, not an 80s movie. It's not a 90s movie. It is a 1990 movie. And the reason I say this is because 1990 specifically was the part of the 90s that still felt like the 80s. And even 91 kind of still felt like the 80s. Any part of the 90s up until like before the whole Nirvana explosion felt like the 80s. So we had like 1990 and the beginning of 91, kind of the first half of 91. Felt like the 80s. And if you weren't alive in that time, then you want to pay attention to this, because it'll teach you something, because the 90s were a great time up until a certain point. And we'll get to that in a minute. Now, I know this has nothing to do with the movie, but it kind of does, so you'll just have to wait and see how I interconnect them, because that's how Exosia works. So 1990 was like a specific time of the 90s. Then there was the whole grunge explosion, the grunge era, which was my favorite part of the 90s, the whole, anywhere from the end of 91 to 94. And it specifically stopped when Kurt Cobain died. Alright? Basically, the success of Nirvana was the grunge period, because anything before or after that was just garbage. There was a brief part of the 90s in the middle, from 95 and 96 kind of era. It was okay. It was an okay time period, but there was a transition you kind of felt happening, where you went from this awesome, just this whole fucking 3 or 4 years of just shit being great and the way you wanted things to be, and you kind of felt it slip away when Kurt died, and it just all started to vanish. It was like people that you thought were true to that time period, were true to the spirit of that time. They started to transition with the 90s, and the rest of us stayed with that time period. And I'm still in the early 90s. Like me, myself, I still want to be back in the early 90s. But there were people that just kind of like, they were fake. And they kind of transitioned with the 90s into this bullshit that it is now. You know, 95 and 96 were kind of okay. And I'm not just talking musically. I'm talking about just in general. But then after 96, it was this like bullshit. It was like garbage fucking the whole Britney Spears era. Like, you know, I use music as a guide because to mark the time periods, because that's what I think about when I think about the 90s. I think about the music. And there was the grunge era. There was 1990, where it was like before I cared about rock music, I was like still listening to rap. And then there was like the 95, 96 era, where it was all like acoustic rock, like fuck, what was that guy's name? That fucking so you wanna take her, oh, I can't even remember how the song goes now. Freddie Johnston, that whole era where it was like Matthew Sweet, Freddie Johnston kind of music. It's good. It was good music, but it wasn't the grunge era music. And then there was that 97 Britney Spears. I know this has nothing to do with anything that this video is supposed to be about, but now I have to get into it because I like tangents. So, but there was the whole Britney Spears Limp Bizkit era after that. That shit sucked. And, you know, that's the era of the 90s that it was like, I don't know, whatever. So 1990, pump up the volume. So getting back to the movie. Now, 1990 was a very specific time. Still kind of felt like the 80s. People still dressed like they were in the 80s, but they kind of added a little twist to it to make it 90s because they wanted to have a change because it was 1990. So in this movie, the acting and dialogue specifically is a little cheesy at certain parts, but it's not cheesy enough to make it a bad movie because it's fucking great. It's a great movie, and you kind of forgive the cheesiness of some of the dialogue and the acting. You're willing to forgive it because of how great this movie is. It's Christian Slater is a high school student, and he basically runs. He has his own pirate radio station a radio program that he runs from his basement. Nobody knows who it is. Nobody knows who he really is. You know, nobody knows that it's him doing this. But the kids at school start to catch on at his school. He talks about his school, and he tries to like tell people what's wrong with his school and why kids are so fucked up and why they're getting expelled and what's happening, and you know, and he basically, word catches on as kids start making tapes, and that's what we did back in those days. We made tapes. We had cassette tapes, and we recorded shit from the radio, and we just, you know, we would make copies, and we'd give them to friends, and we had tapes, and I miss those times, even though tapes suck, and you had to rewind them and shit, you know, they always got eaten up, but I miss that stuff, you know. So kids were making tapes and handing them out to friends, and his radio station started to catch on, and suddenly, you know, kids were calling in, and there was one kid that kills himself, and because, you know, he was speaking to this radio guy and he didn't try to stop it, he starts to get blamed for the kid killing himself, and it causes an uproar at the school. Basically, the teachers are trying to figure out who it is, and they're expelling students to, you know, try and get knowledge to bust this guy, Christian Slater. And the movie has a nice steady pace. The movie starts out small, and it just builds in intensity as it goes to the phenomenal fucking ending that it has. And it does kind of drop off the ending. It kind of cuts off. You know, it does feel like you kind of want a nice little resolution at the end, but you don't get that. It just stops. You know, the movie just kind of stops. But it's still perfect. It's still. It doesn't need anything after what you get. It would be nice to have more, but you don't need it. Now, yeah, but like I said, the movie steadily just it builds as it goes to just all the way to the end. You know, you start out just him talking, and then people start to catch on. It causes a big uproar. By the middle of the movie, people are blowing shit up and going crazy. There's anarchy, and they're fucking spreading the word about his radio station. The teachers are coming down. The FCC's getting involved, and shit just goes nuts by the end. And it's a good time. It's called Pump Up the Volume. It's just about it just has that angsty 90s spirit that I miss and that everybody misses from those days, and it's a great product of its time. Next is what do we have? Rounders. Rounders is there's not much I can say about Rounders. It's a poker movie. It's a movie about poker. The underworld of poker. Basically, there's a recovering gambling addict. I guess he's an addict. I don't know. He's not really an addict, but you can tell he has problems with playing poker. He has gambling issues, and his girlfriend, tries to get him to stop. He doesn't. He plays poker behind her back. He lies about it, playing but he's trying. He's basically trying to stop and be good to his girlfriend, And Ed Norton. It's Matt Damon and Ed Norton, and Ed Norton is his friend who gets out of prison and sucks him right back into the poker world. He sucks him right in. He's just like, "Hey, let's go catch a game," And basically, Ed Norton gets into some trouble with some, thugs who he owes money. Gets Matt Damon involved, and it gets all crazy. But it's a perfect fucking movie about poker and the poker underworld. Especially if you don't know anything about poker, it's informative. It's the guy Brian Koppelman and David Levine. It was their first screenplay, and which goes to show that not all first scripts suck. Because it's a phenomenal fucking movie. There's just nothing wrong with it. There's nothing I would ever change about this movie. It's a slow-paced movie, but it never gets boring. And the guys that wrote it, they did research. They did go into the poker world and snoop around and get involved for a little while to learn about it. So they did their homework, and it shows, it shows in the movie, but it's great. It's great, and it has John Malkovich as the main antagonist, I guess you could say. It's great. Check it out. It's called Rounders. And number 3, Leaves of Grass. Leaves of Grass. Now, I might be a little biased to this movie because, I'm a former pothead myself, but this is not a pot movie. This is not a stoner comedy. It's not like, hey man, weed makes me get the munchies. It's not that kind of movie. Even though it is based around weed in general. The movie's about, well, it's, again, another Ed Norton movie. Ed Norton. I love Ed Norton. So many good Edward Norton movies. American History X. Honorable mention. There you go. There's one. So, Edward Norton plays identical twins, but they're not so identical in personalities. They're polar opposites. One of them is a weed-dealing redneck who lives in Oklahoma, while the other is a philosophy professor based in Boston. Kind of total opposites, but they're identical, in looks, except for the features that they can physically change themselves, hair and whatnot. So the weed dealing brother in Oklahoma gets into some trouble with the higher ups in the drug game, and he owes them money, and basically he realizes that he might have to kill somebody. So he fakes his death to get his brother in Boston to come down, because the brother basically has nothing to do with the rest of his family. He doesn't talk to them. They don't really communicate at all. So to get him down there to be his alibi, he fakes his death so he has to go down for the fake funeral, and basically, yeah, like I said, he gets him to be his alibi. Shit happens. He's against the whole thing, but he gets involved because it's his brother, and it's a great little movie. It's not a stoner comedy. It's a weed movie, but it's only because the guy deals weed. It's not really about getting stoned and all that shit like Harold and Kumar films and Seth Rogen movies. It's not like that. It's an adult movie. It's not a kids comedy. It's not a teen comedy. But it's really good at making you want to be a part of that. I like movies that make you feel like you want to be a part of that community. And even though I'm not really big on the South, it really makes you want to live in that area and with those people. You want to hang out with those people, and it makes you want to be there. I don't know. It's just I love movies like that do that. That make you feel like part of the town, part of the community. Which brings us to the next movie, Adventureland. Adventureland is number 2. It is pretty much as perfect as a movie can get. There's really nothing wrong with Adventureland. There's nothing I would change. The cast, the music, the soundtrack, the just everything in the movie. It's an 80s set movie. It takes place in 1987, but it's not a nostalgia grab. It's not a nostalgia like, hey, look at this, it's 80s stuff. It's not that kind of 80s movie. It feels like it was legitimately filmed in 1987. It feels like you're watching a movie that was filmed in the 80s. And if you didn't know anything about the movie, if you didn't know any of the cast members, if you didn't know anything about it, and you just turned it on and you were flipping through the channels, you would think it was the 80s. And that was what the guy was trying to accomplish, Greg Mottola. The trailers unfortunately make it look like a laugh out loud comedy, but it is not. It's funny. It has funny moments, but it's a drama. It's a drama. It's a slow movie, but it never gets boring. It's never. I can watch this movie. I watched it like 3 days in a row, not too long ago. I mean, it's fucking. I never get tired of it. It's not. There's nothing wrong with this movie. It's basically about a kid who's going to be starting college in New York City, and he's about to take a summer vacation to Europe with one of his friends. And because of his parents' financial situation, he doesn't get to go, but instead has to stay home in Pittsburgh and get a job at a local amusement park, Adventureland, which is a real place, but it's called it's like Kenny something or other. It's not. It's a real amusement park, but it's not called Adventureland in real life. But so he gets a job, and that's basically what the movie is. It's a kid who gets a summer job. He goes to work and hangs out with the people that he works with. He falls in love with the girl that works there. That's it. It's basically based on the writer Greg Mottola. It was based on, I guess, a summer that he experienced, I guess, when he was that age, And it's a great movie. Perfect movie. Nothing I would change. So, Adventureland. Number 1. E.T. Gotta go with E.T. There are people, my generation, who have not seen E.T., I don't know what the fuck is wrong with you. If you haven't seen this movie and you're over the age of 30 or 40, what the fuck are you doing? If you haven't seen E.T., I just don't understand. What were you doing all that time? I mean, it took me 3 years to see the movie, and I felt like that was too long. Came out in '82. I saw it in '85. They re-released it in theaters in '85, and I went to see it then. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful movie. There are no better movies, as far as I'm concerned. It's the best movie ever made. First of all, the kids in the movie are top notch. I mean, there are movies with kid actors like Miko Hughes. You know, he's a perfect kid actor. But this movie has several kid actors that are just great, which is a rarity nowadays. Nowadays, kids are used for horror and for they do all kinds of stupid shit with kids now. They have them fighting off bad guys and outsmarting major criminals, and it's like no. In this movie, they get to be kids, and that's what they were pretty much told to do. A lot of the dialogue was just ad-libbed by the kids. Basically, they said, show E.T. around your room. Whatever you would say to an alien in your room if you were showing him around your room, just do that. Just show him your shit. And he takes him around. He shows him Star Wars action figures, his goldfish, you know. And that's the beauty of this movie, is that it was a scripted film, but a lot of the dialogue was just ad-libbed by the kids, just being told to be kids. Just be themselves. And, that's why the acting is so good. But on top of that, there's Henry Thomas, who was hired because of his ability to cry, at will. And the kid does an excellent job. And not to mention, he looked a lot like me at that age, too. He looked a lot like I did when I was 5. It's just that ending as well. If you don't know what E.T. is, it's about an alien that gets left behind on Earth because scientists are snooping around trying to find the ship when it lands. Yeah, or they're trying to find something. I don't think they know what they're looking for quite at that moment in the beginning of the film. But the ship leaves without E.T., he gets left behind, and he makes his way to Elliot's house. And they basically form a friendship, and the older brother and the sister, played by Drew Barrymore, they get involved, and it's a great little film. It's about their friendship and what happens while E.T.'s on Earth. And there hasn't been another movie like it that was nearly as good, ever. Perfect film. Perfect. The ending is just incredible, and if you don't cry, there's something wrong with you. I mean, this movie makes me cry every fucking time I watch it. This fucking, from the score, just that fucking music at the end. It just, when E.T. is getting ready to leave, and it's so sad, and everything is perfect about this movie. Just watch E.T. If you fuck. Why have people not seen this? And Back to the Future, the Back to the Future trilogy. There are people my age who have not seen Back to the Future. What the fuck? Just go watch these movies. It's just, how can you have a life and not know that these movies exist? Just, I don't know. Don't understand. Anyway, that's my top 6 perfect movies of all time. Comment below. Let me know what you think are the most perfect movies, and we'll have a little discussion.